We should start now. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. You probably want. Hello. I'm sorry we're starting a bit late. I just thought it would be great to have a decent size, reasonable size on before we start. Just as an background, you're probably wondering, so what's this Stella and Friends all about? I find that people say all the time that I know lots of people. They say Stella knows so many people. Now there's this saying that your net worth is a function of your network. Okay.
Stella, can you mute all of us, please?
Let me. Let me see. Oh, can everyone is muted now? Can you mute yourselves? Kumbi? Okay, I will mute her. Yeah. Should we welcome? Anyway, everybody else, kindly mute yourself. So I was saying, welcome everybody. People say that I know a lot of people, but then I know there's a saying. I can't deal with this. Coco is asking to be let in. Sign. Yeah, the email. Okay, but then your network is supposed to work for you. So what I decided to do is to have this monthly conversation where I bring together my friends, and really, as I said, my friend's friend, a friend of my friend is my friend. And I believe that within this network, we have immense resources, we have lots of knowledge, we have lots of wisdom that we really should share amongst ourselves. And so I'm hoping that after this, we'll be having these monthly sessions. Well, I'll start quarterly, and then maybe in the new year, one can do it on a monthly basis, where we will share different topics. Now, in the course of my work, I met Mr. Olugbenga King, who is our guest speaker, and I'll be doing a brief introduction. And I find that my work involves providing mortgages for customers, mostly international clients. But then I realized, living and working in London, that some people seem to take advantage of first the knowledge they know. So one is either a case some people may not know, or people are not actually taking advantage of the knowledge. And having met Benga, I felt it was appropriate to have this session where he could speak to us about investing in property. So I'll just give a brief introduction. Olugbenga King, formerly known as Olugbenga Bello, is the founder and CEO of BSL Financial Services Limited, which he started on the 1st of February 2019 as the only broker, having worked with different companies since October 2013. Now, his firm now has 4 mortgage brokers and 2 broker support team members, with recruitment still ongoing. So that means the firm is still very much in its growth stage, and their office is in Lewisham in Southeast London. Before venturing out on his own, he worked as a mortgage advisor, I said, with various firms, some of which he was with Financial Associates, which is in Swindon, Taylor Rose Financial in Peterborough, Oracle Financial Consultants in Stevenage, and Foster de Novo, which is Monuments in the City of London. So it was while he was at Foster de Novo that I met him working also in the City of London. Important thing to note is that his firm is regulator, is authorized by the FCA, which is the Financial Conduct Authority. So he's fully authorized to give all the advice he'll be sharing with us now. And his firm provides a whole range of services, residential mortgages, buy-to-let, HMO, he'll tell you what that is, commercial mortgages, semi-commercial, I don't know what a semi-commercial is, I too will be learning, multiple unit buildings, bridging finance, development finance, renovation finance, it goes on and on. So I'll just like to welcome Benga. He does have slides, but what we've agreed, Benga, you just speak through and then later you share the slides. Is that your preference?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, so the floor is yours. Thank you, Benga, for coming on.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So my sister said we met while I was at Foster de Novo, and it's been a it's been a wonderful journey. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I truly appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone. Like she said, my name is Olugbenga Bello, formerly Olugbenga Bello. Olugbenga King, sorry, formerly Olugbenga Bello. She told me about people that she meets often that in the late 40s and early 50s that find it difficult to come onto the property market. And I said to her that it's actually not a problem because there are lenders and ways that we cater for such clients. And she said it would be a nice thing for us to have a gathering like this to take on the opportunity. Like you mentioned, my company, we cater for different type of mortgage services or anything property related. We do funding for. The semi-commercial that you mentioned, it's just a property where there's commercial shops underneath and there are flats above. That's just what that is. So it's mixed commercial, like flats and shops all together. Um, I would like to focus more on the residential and the buy-to-let side of things, but more on the residential for first-time buyers that I think is not possible for them to get onto the property ladder. What I First and foremost, I wanted to share where we specialize. My company specializes in people with adverse credits. So those people that have got county court judgments against them, they've got defaults on their credit reports, they've got their own debt management or individual voluntary arrangement with their creditors to sort of find a way to pay their debts. Also, people that have been discharged bankrupt initially and they've gone through the process and they're now been discharged from the process. All these people that I've mentioned are able to get mortgage, but the issue that I'm finding is most people don't know where to go. Everyone just assume if you need a mortgage, just go straight to your bank. And when the bank says no, they just give up. So we're finding more and more people telling us, oh, they didn't know this is possible. So that they would have started earlier if they knew there's alternative to what they were doing. We also do protection and life insurance. That's part of the company service, but I mainly focus on property myself. So the starting point, I've listed out some areas that I want to talk about: employment, financial commitment and expenditure, your incomings and outgoings every month, your deposit, how to get deposits together, age at the start, like when to start your mortgage, the latest you can sort of get on the property ladder, retirement age for those that are nearing retirement. And I'm going to talk about credit profile as well, just to emphasize on the importance of that aspect of the credit profile. So the employment side of the things we need to know. Lenders are very much into how long people have been in employment, like continuous employment. They're not really particular about you starting a new job as long as you've been in employment for more than 12 months or over. The idea is they want to know you have income coming in and you can sustain yourself. You can maintain payment of your credit, of the mortgage, and everything else you're looking to do in terms of you getting a mortgage. And the next thing is multiple income multiples. Ideally, they normally have 4 times income, 5 times income, but it's not all of them that look at that to assess applicants' possibility of getting a mortgage. But they have a starting base, which is 4 times income. So, for example, someone earning 50,000 a year, depending on the lender, if it's a lender that will look at it 4 times income, they will be maxing their loan at 200,000. If it's 5 times income, it means they can go up to 250,000, and that's outside of the deposit that you need to put down. So those things are very important because that's where they will start. Then they will now look at your commitments. What are the things you are paying towards every month? To now move backwards, to sort of take out those costs, to now give them an idea of the disposable income or amount you can afford to pay towards the mortgage. These are things that they do before they now agree, okay, this is the maximum we can give you, or this is basically the amount of money they are willing to offer you that they know you'll be comfortable paying without the monthly payment impacting your lifestyle. It's important that they give you a loan amount that they know will not impact your lifestyle, because that's what the FCA have instructed them, that they shouldn't give people loans that will inconvenience them, that will mean that in the long term they will default and they won't be able to keep up payment. Things that they will need to see to do the calculation is your pay slip. They will need 3 months pay slip typically for people that have been in the same job for a long time. They will need to see the last year's P60 to see how much the person have earned the previous year, to see how they can calculate. And also 3 months bank statement to see the payment coming into the account, that the salaries are paid into your account every month, and also to identify how you're spending your money, your spending pattern. What goes out, how much do you take out as cash? How much do you spend? Are they able to identify the things you spend your money on? Are they things that are essential to yourself, or are they just, the person just have an habit of just spending money and they're constantly sustaining themselves by borrowing more? So are you living within your income or constantly going outside of it? So those are the things they will look at. That's for employed people. For self-employed people, they will want to see the self-assessment submission for the business year, 2 to 3 years. But there are some lenders that will take 1 year for someone that's just started a business and the business is doing very well. Depending on what they can see, they will take the 1 year. For a limited company, they can get the accountant to confirm your income via different means. That the accountant will provide a profit and loss account for the lender and will send the accounting certificate to confirm that my client has earned this amount over this period of time. And also they will request for the business account to see the money coming in and out. To see the money coming in and out of the business account, to give them a broad view of how the business is doing and how the business can sustain itself with the owner looking to take on a larger debt. From there, I would like to talk about affordability. I mentioned earlier income multiples and your financial commitments. this is basically your credit card, your loan, your HP. If you have a store card or any form of credit commitments, they want to know how you're using this your credit cards, how you're paying back your loans, your higher purchases. Is it something that you are constantly using more than 60-70% of your income every month to service debt? Or are you within the 50% or just under 60% of your monthly commitment? Because this gives them an idea of if the person loses their job, will they be able to sustain themselves? How long will they be able to sustain themselves for before they run into financial problems? Are they spending too much credit? Like they have a limit of 10,000 and they're constantly using 7, 8, 9,000 of the 10,000 limit. Basically using 80% or more of your credit commitments every month. So these are the things they will look at, because all those things, all the commitment will be deducted from what they can give out as mortgage. I've seen a client where she got a commitment of £300 a month for HP. Because of the 300, the lender actually took out 25,000 from the mortgage they were going to give to the client. They deducted 25,000 that she's got a monthly commitment of 300. So that reduced the loan amount by 25,000. How they calculated it, they didn't really tell us, but that 300 had a huge impact on the client that she wasn't able to get the mortgage. It means she needed to have additional deposit of 25,000 towards the purchase. So she had to stop. Store cards and basically those things are essential to their own calculation. Also, your expenditure. They have an idea of what the basic household expenditures are because they use the Office of National Statistics and their own surveys to sort of gather together what people can spend on a monthly basis, especially a household of 4 and 5. So out of this, they know the essentials. The non-essentials are the issue that they focus on mostly as well. If you have so many non-essential commitments, takeouts, day outs, trips, spending money, taking out cash that cannot be accounted for and is constant, those things raise questions that lenders will want to know why you're taking money and what's the money for, or they see irregularity in terms of money coming into your account that they've not been told. They will ask questions. What's this money for? Where's it coming from? What are these things for? So those questions, if they are not comfortable with what is on the business, on the account, also, they have a right to say no. Not because the person can't afford the mortgage, but they are not sure of how the person is making their money. So those things have an impact as well. In terms of deposit, the most preferred is savings. They want to see how you've saved up your deposit over the period. Most times they can ask for 6 months bank statement to show how you've built up your savings. Lenders will accept gifted deposit from family members that own their own properties as well, that father, mother, brothers, sisters, cousins, uncles that want to give money towards helping the person to buy. Lenders will accept that. Concessionary purchase, that's basically someone having a property now, selling it at a reduced price to a family member that wants to buy. brothers and sisters, family basically are allowed to do that as well. They've got multiple properties. They want to help one of their own to get on the property ladder. They can sell it at a reduced price, where the buyer will use the difference towards the deposit to buy. They can do that. There's a company that I discovered recently. They're called Step Ladder. They basically do what we understand to be pool savings that we call Ajo in Nigeria. So pool savings whereby everyone comes together to pool money in a pot and someone takes it every month. That's what they've been able to put in place to regularize, and they can be the deposit can be verified. I put that in there for those that find it difficult to save, and they do regular monthly contribution with their friends. But we can't use that because lenders don't know how everyone gathers the money. But with this step ladder, they can provide them with the necessary document because the company is FCA regulated. So they can be used as a means of saving up your deposit. The gifts from sellers, vendors gifts. So people that want to sell the house can give a discount of 5%, 10% that can be used as deposit as well. So it's for those that are very savvy, know how to negotiate when they're looking to buy something. They can negotiate a reduced price with the seller, whereby they will use the difference towards the deposit. They can either add to it, or if it's enough, the lenders can take that. Also, people with business owners, dividends can be used from your business account or investment that is going to pay out. All those things can be taken on as a source of deposit. The last one that I put on there was a foreign source. Those of us with investments in outside UK, in Africa, or anywhere we've invested, if there's a paper trail for the bank to see that, okay, you own this asset, you sold it, and this is the paperwork, this is how the money came into the country. The banks will allow that as well. They will allow you to use that towards the deposit as long as money laundering checks have been properly vetted. The next thing is the unacceptable source, where they don't want, they will say no, unsecured loan. So where people will take out loans to use as deposit towards buying a house. The common one now is the bounce back loan that people are collecting. The government have actually instructed them, they've been instructed to not allow that, not to use that, because it's not meant for people to use towards buying property. So any sort of loan that you want to use towards securing a property is not, if it's a residential, is not allowed. If it's a buy-to-let that you've owned your property, you now gather people together to do a joint venture. That is a separate thing entirely. They will accept that. But for residential home where you're going to live in, is your first purchase, they don't want unsecured loan. Gifted deposit from unrelated individuals is similar to the unsecured loans. They wouldn't want it if it's where you're going to live. If it's a buy-to-let investment, is acceptable. So, and income from outside, funds from outside UK that cannot be verified. With that one, it doesn't matter if it's buy-to-let or residential. If it cannot be verified, lenders will not accept that. Sorry, am I making sense, or is it? Okay. The next slide is about credit worthiness. The credit profile plays a very big role in terms of how lenders see us. They have access to more information in terms of our credit profile than we will see on the Experian, on the Equifax, or whichever credit profile company we work with. They have access to bigger data, so they sort of know what we won't see. So someone with high credit commitment, for example, like I mentioned earlier, it shows them this person lives on finance, lives on borrowing money. So if they lose their job, the person will find it difficult to pay back the mortgage. An example would be the other clients when I started, that she was earning good income and she has all her credit commitment. She was paying, not missing. She wasn't missing any payment at all. But she was using 85% of her monthly payment to service the commitments. So even though she had a very good high score, she was almost 999 in terms of the score. There was no missed payment, there was no default, everything was clean. The lender still said no, because the understanding was if she loses her job, she's going to be in problem within the next 2-3 months of losing her job. Automatically, she will now start saving to survive instead of paying for the credit commitment that she has. So she will default on so many things. So that's why they said no. The next one is missed credit payments. Some lenders will allow, depending on the lender, they have different stages of missed payment. What they don't want is missed payment on mortgages. You can miss payment on any other credit commitments, but when it comes to mortgage, they will allow maybe 1 or 2 in a year, maximum 3 in the space of 12 months. The moment it's going over that, it means there is money issue that they need to be mindful of, and all those things means they don't want to lend. Payment arrears as well. Lenders will take people with payment arrears as long as it's been cleared before we go for the mortgage. Debt management, and debt management is where you've not been able to meet up with your commitment and you've gone to meet those companies that allows you to help you to sort of talk to all the creditors that you are owing, and they put a plan in place that you pay a certain amount every month and they will be dealing with it. Some lenders will take that if you've been consistently doing it and you've not missed that payment for a year, 2 years, and they can see that you are paying and you are able to afford the mortgage. Some lenders will give mortgage to that person, regardless of the debt management. Some will allow it to go on, or some will help you to pay it off so that you have a clean credit. But everything needs to be within reason. Payday loans, people that uses payday loan regularly. Some lenders don't want that. Some will accept a little bit, and some who are okay with it, depending on how they assess the client and how and why they're using payday loans. The next one is individual voluntary arrangement. That's similar with the debt management, but it's just yourself going into an agreement with the credit companies yourself that I'm not able to pay this amount every month, but I can commit to this lower figure every month, and you are consistently paying that. Banks are happy to to lend to people that, because they've seen commitment from them and they've put an agreement in place and they've committed to it. They are okay with that as well. Bankrupt people, there's depending on how long and how much was owed, they can still give mortgages to people that have been declared bankrupt and they've been discharged if it's over a certain period. Ideally, the bankrupts are discharged 12 months after the order has been put in place. So if the client or the person is able to sort of put themselves together and maintain a good credit over a period of 2-3 years from discharge, lenders will take a view on them and will lend to them also. I want to talk about mortgage for into retirement, because that's mostly where we discussed when I spoke to Mr. Stella. People over 40, there are still lenders that will give mortgages. There are still lenders that are looking for businesses from such people. In fact, there are a few lenders that's their own niche market. That's where they focus on. They don't want businesses from anyone that is under 50. Their starting point is 50 plus. So anyone that is under 50 will need to partner up with an elderly person for them to give the mortgage to that client. That's that's their own market. So because they don't compete with everyone else, they've created their own space. So the way that works is anyone typically 50, almost 60 or above can partner up with anyone younger and they will give them a mortgage as long as they can prove their pension is in, they've got a good, decent pension that when they retire, the monthly income will be able to sustain them and be able to pay the mortgage. They have investment or other source of income outside of their current salary. In the maximum age to apply for a mortgage, there's really no maximum age if you have a good pension in place. For a residential home, if the pension is good, they can see that when you've retired, your pension, monthly payment from pension is very good. It will cover the mortgage and you will still be able to live a very good life. Lenders will go up to age 85 for the person to get a mortgage. And if it's a buy-to-let, there's actually no limit. I did a mortgage for a 71-year-old not too long ago that I got it at 5-year term on a buy-to-let. So for buy-to-let investments, there's no age limit. What they tell us is if the person is before they turn 80, 81, they can still give them 35 years term. But the moment they're 81-year-old, the term will be reduced, but they will still give them mortgage for buy-to-let. For residential, as long as the person has a younger person with them in the mortgage, they're okay to go up to 90 and above, as long as they know that the pension will be able to cover the payment. Yeah, I think that's the last slides I have. If there are any questions, please?
Okay, thank you very much, Benga. I think this has been it's been an eye-opening talk for me. I'll leave others to ask questions. And I believe anyone who wants to ask a question, you could unmute yourself. I just wanted to mention, Benga, that I think within the call, we have 22 people
Yeah.
about 25% of the people on this call are actually non-UK residents.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so I would like to know, so when you talk about things like being able to get a buy-to-let mortgage, even if you were over 50, it will be
Yeah.
interesting to know which of these options are available for non-UK residents, one, and then maybe you can speak more about this step ladder proposition. Because, I mean, for those who live in London especially, you go to certain parts of town, especially the Asians, they have a way of, they'll buy up one house, the next property becomes available, a cousin buys it, a nephew buys it, and before you know, the whole family have bought up one side, a whole street. Now, I don't believe that they all have perfect credit scores, you know, and they're all definitely not under 50. But are these things also available for people who are non-UK residents? And then how does one, even for people who are UK residents, how does one get on this step ladder approach? Because it seems to me, I'd imagine others would like to know more about. But for once he answers those two questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask whatever question you may have. Or if you'd rather put it in the chat, kindly do so, and then I'll announce to all.
Um, I'll I'll take the foreign national question first.
Okay.
Foreign nationals, because they don't live here, it's not easily possible for them to do a residential mortgage, but they can do a buy-to-let.
Okay.
There's so many lenders that will accept income from foreign nationals to invest here. In fact, we do help them to set up a limited company here as a foreign national. We set up a limited company for them, and we do a mortgage to buy into the company for them, and they build up from there to be able to buy more properties. But they will only be an investor. They won't give them a residential mortgage. And after a while, they will have access to the sort of lending rates that people that live here have access to for buy-to-let investments. So the ideal thing would be for anyone looking to do that to make sure that they put their investments, their funds in a visible place that it can be verified, because lenders have people that help them to verify the individual at different countries, that they can be easily identified. Okay, this is how this person makes their money. This is how they've been able to pull their funds together. If that can be established, lenders will give lending, regardless. The person doesn't even need to have been in the UK at all. They might never have been there at all. It's fine by them.
Okay, somebody's asking, and that relates to the buy-to-let mortgage using a company, because they are aware. So for instance, my bank provides loans to people who are non-resident, but not at the same rate. So this question from Ifia Bam is saying, on average, how long is a while before that investor can begin to enjoy the interest rates a UK resident would?
I think it's more to do with the volume of investment. Let's say, for example, someone has a buy-to-let in up north of England where the properties are very cheap. They've got 10, they've been able to buy 10. All the 10 is still under 500,000 compared to someone that will invest in London that's got only 2, and that 2 is over 1 million. So it's all down to the lender on, okay, this person has established themselves financially. They have a UK bank account. They have compared to, so it's down to the individual, and they will assess it based on that. They don't have a fixed period that this is how long. It's just that the volume of investment and their appetite to lend to that person.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, so your advice would be for someone looking to get on the property market to probably start with outside London, because the prices are cheaper. Is that?
Well, yeah, prices are cheaper. Prices are cheaper, definitely there. I recently helped a client, like she's like a mom to me. She lives in London. She wanted to buy. Obviously, where she's living, she can't afford to. So I helped her to set up a limited company, and she was able to buy a two-bedroom house in Durham for 35,000.
Really?
Yeah, and and the tenant is paying 350 a month rent. So things like that are available. So the plan for her is that I've told her is we'll keep buying into it. That every
Wow.
month, every time she buys, in 10 years she will recoup all the money that she put down. She bought this one cash down. So
Mm.
after 6 months, I'm going to help her to refinance the same property to take out 60% of the cash that she used. Then she cannot use that to buy another one. So those are the things that are possible for outside London. For London, it's capital intensive, but opportunities are still here. But you need to be able to have the capital to do that.
Okay, I can see the questions are flooding in. Emma Emmanuel is asking, would lenders finance a property investment outside the UK for a UK resident? You know, with this COVID situation, we've determined that we can live anywhere. We can live in the south of France. You know, we can live in Spain and still work here. So will lenders here provide funding for a property investment outside? And then I'll take this, if you can take the second one also from Mfonakwan. She wants, what's the rate of appreciation? So we agree that the entry point outside London is lower, but then what is appreciation like for properties up north as opposed to in London?
The UK, outside UK, there's a lender that I work with that will invest in Europe and certain parts of the world. But they have a limit to the number of countries they're willing to go to. So it depends on if that country is on their list of places they can invest in, then they will fund it.
Okay.
They mostly focus on Europe, America, and Australia and New Zealand, but they have other parts of the world that they are comfortable investing in, lending for someone to buy them. But we have to find out if that country is on their panel.
Okay.
The next question, do mortgage rates depend on
the one about the rate of appreciation of property up north as opposed to London?
Oh, okay. In terms of that would typically London's rates are based on, is all about demand and supply. So there's more demand for rental and for properties in London than up north. And the standard of living in London, let me say, is southeast of England. So we're talking about M25 surroundings. There is demand for people. The rates are high there because of the proximity to London. And the further out you go, the cheaper the properties are. And those places up now, they don't have a high rent, high capital gains in terms of appreciation, but the rental are higher than, in terms of percentage, they're higher than London. Because the one that I said to you now will probably get 12% return on rent compared to London, that the typical rent will probably be, anyone that gets a 4 or 5% return in rental yield in London is doing very well. They're actually doing extremely well if they can get 5% in London compared to outside London where you get 12%, 13%.
Oh,
The downside to it is you won't be able to do capital gains. That same property that I mentioned for 35,000 will probably be 40,000 in 10 years time compared to London property that will almost double at the same period.
Okay.
So that's the downside to investing outside London.
Okay.
But the upside is if you want income, you are not focused on the capital side of it.
Yeah.
You want regular income. It's an ideal place to just buy and leave it. 10 years, the money spent on the properties come back. Anything else is just pure profit. It's just pure profit. So someone can live off that. 10 of those ones will give them 3,500 a month.
Yeah.
So ideally, the person doesn't really need to work, if I'm being honest. But it's just down to what sort of approach the person wants.
Yeah. Okay, because I like that. So it's really down to the objective. So if you're looking to replace a salary, then you're better off buying outside London, and then you can receive income monthly, which supports your lifestyle. Then if you want the London life, maybe you get a residential property and live in London, but you know that there's income coming from up north.
Yeah.
Julie Dankar is asking a question. The mortgage rates depend on the amount of deposit you make. So is it that the higher your deposit, the lower your rate? There's a question on a Durham property, but I would like if you can take these two. The one on whether the mortgage rate is dependent on the deposit. And then Ayumeta would like to know if one already has a buy-to-let property, will the mortgage lender still lend to you for a second buy-to-let?
The deposit plays a role because the more deposit you put down, the lower the risk to the lender. So it means they are more comfortable giving you a better rate because they know their exposure is limited. So the rate they will give someone that's only putting down 25% deposit, as an example, for a buy-to-let, or 10% for residential, will be higher compared to someone that is putting down, that they're going to give for residential that is looking to put down 20% deposit. So it means the exposure is 80% off. So even if property goes down, they've got a cushion that will help them. So the rate will be better for that person. The monthly payment will be lower for that person. For buy-to-let, someone putting down 35%, for example, will get a very reduced rate because of the risk to the lender is very small. So they will give a better rate. So yes, the deposit plays a role in the rates that is available. The next question, sorry, that
it says, if one already has a buy-to-let property, will the mortgage lender still lend to you for a second buy-to-let?
Yes, a typical buy-to-let investor, some lenders will say we don't want the person to have more than 4 with them, but there's really no limit to the number of properties an investor can buy. And lenders don't have issue. Some have hundreds. So it's all down to how much you want to invest and you keeping your credit and profile clean enough for them to be comfortable to lend to you. So there's no amount of property you want to buy that lenders will say no.
Okay.
There are different lenders and they have different attitude to risk. They have different level of exposure. Some will say we can only give you up to 2 million with us. We don't care what you've got with other lenders. Some will have a higher amount, but that's just with them. You cannot have maybe 4 or 5 banks saying we just want to be exposed to 20 million of your portfolio. So we're talking 10 million. So they can have as many as they want with 2 million limit with each lender.
Okay, thanks for that, Benga. I was going to ask a question, but I think it would be great if as many of us as desire actually get off this 9 to 5 rat race. So my question is, say one wanted to replace their monthly income from rental income from property looking up north, what is the minimum deposit required to be able to get a mortgage for those kind of buy-to-lets?
For buy-to-lets, the minimum, it used to be 15% before this COVID thing
Okay.
started. Lenders will take 15% deposit for a house, but for a flat, the minimum is 25%.
Okay.
But because of the COVID now, we're finding it challenging for lenders that will even say, okay, we can do 20%. But 20%, 15%, 25% used to be the benchmark. For first-time buyers, they will look at their commitment in terms of, because many lenders assume a first-time buyer will go and live in the house.
Okay.
But they want to tell them it's a buy-to-let. So when they've completed, they will now go and move in there. So lenders will look at what they can afford. They will assess it as if they're going to live there.
Okay.
But it's a buy-to-let. So they will still lend to them. It's just that their approach will be different. They will look at it like someone that wants to go and live in the house.
Okay.
So in terms of minimum deposit, it's all down to where you're looking to buy. For flat, 25%, a house, 15, 20%.
Okay.
Then they will now look at what the rents can give. If the rent can take the 75% that you're asking them for, then they will give the mortgage. If the rent can only take 65, they will ask you to put more money down.
More, okay.
More down. So that's the way they look at it.
Okay. Okay, let's take this question from Remy Ayala, Sister Wanda to me. She says, can you use the Durham property as case history to let us know what mortgage she could have got if she wanted to buy with a mortgage, and how much will her repayments have been? So you remember you said the lady bought a property for 35,000, but it was a cash purchase. Assuming that lady was to buy that Durham property with a mortgage, how much could she have borrowed, and how much would her repayments have been, and the deposit?
Yeah, with the Durham property, she would have had to put down 25%. Because she doesn't have a house, she's a first-time buyer. She would have had to put down 25% deposit, and the rate would have been around, depending on our credit profile, which she has a good one. So we'll probably be talking 2-3% per annum rate. The mortgage payment, I think when I did the sourcing for her, we're talking like between £75 and £120 a month.
Well, is that interest only?
Yeah, because it's buy-to-let, it's interest only. Yes.
Okay, can you speak to that a bit so people know that option exists?
Well, it's because she'll put down deposit of 25%. Lender will only give her 75% of the 35,000. So sorry, let me quickly do a calculation of.
Yes, she would have had to put down 8,750.
8,750. So they would have given her like 27,000 or 26,500. So the monthly payment on that, the maximum is based on her having an adverse credit.
Okay.
So it's not that the 75 is based on the 2% rate that she's got a good credit, then goes up as lenders that will accommodate different type of credit. So it means they're lending based on their comfortability in terms of how bad, and they will now charge rates based on that. That's why we got to the 120. But the maximum that I found was 150 because they won't let the rate go too much into the buy-to-let monthly payment.
Mhm. Okay, now some people say that for you to have an interest-only mortgage, you have to have a source of repayment other than the sale of the property. Is that correct?
It depends on, for a residential home, some lenders will want you to have additional source of deposit, but most lenders now will accept sale of the house that the person is going to downsize
Okay.
as a repayment. But for buy-to-let, it's the sale of the security because it's an investment. So they
Okay.
don't require you to have additional investment along with the buy-to-let, because
Okay.
that is an investment on its own.
Yes.
So if push comes to shove, you sell the house, pay them their money, everyone say bye-bye. So
yeah.
yeah, so yeah.
So that's good to know. Julie, if you had £80,000 to invest, would it be better to go northwards for a greater yield? What do you think, Benga?
Um, what I what I normally say to my client is, what time do you have? Because that we have people that just want to get the property and give it to an agent 100%. They don't want to go there. I have a client that has 3 properties in Southampton. 12 years, he's never been there. His rent is not missing because the agents are doing a fantastic job. He actually doesn't know who the tenants are. He's never been there one time in 12 years. And they don't miss any rent. They don't give him trouble.
It's actually, no, go ahead.
Then we have people in London that they're constantly it's very close to them and they're constantly having tenant turnover. So it's all down to how you want to see it. Up north, most times, if you give it to the council, they will take care of the property. You just get your money. Same in London, if you buy a house, you give it straight to the council. The council, some councils will maintain it. They might not give you a good rental rate, but they will maintain your property 100%. Your money will not miss one time.
Yeah.
So it's all down to the time the person has. Are they able to, do they want up north where they can use the 80,000 to maybe buy 3 or 4? Or do they want to use the 80,000 to buy one in London that at the end of the day, the rent will not be as high? So it's all down to the individual and what sort of goal do they want? Are they particular about the capital growth of the property, or they just want regular income and they're okay with rental yield?
Okay, thank you for that. There's another question she had asked. I missed that. She says, can you take out equity from your residential property to invest in a buy-to-let property? That's also from Julie.
Yes, you can. If your income can sustain the new lending, and there are lenders that will even allow a second charge, that if you have a good rate on your first with the first lender, they will give you additional lending and stay behind the first lender that has a good rate, that you have a good rate with. So they wouldn't ask you to pay them off, but they will just give you additional. This additional lending might be a bit higher because of their exposure, the risk they're taking, because they are the second lender on the same property. So if anything happens, it's either they lose out on getting their money or they get reduced amount. If the equity is high, then they're okay, but it's possible for you to take out money if you can easily afford to pay the 2 without any problem.
Okay, that's fine. She was actually even, just wrote here, she meant from a property that is fully owned. So yes, Judy, if you fully own the property, it's your
Yes.
property, you can
Yeah, you
definitely
can
take
take it
out
out.
equity.
Yes.
And like he said, with the opportunities he's mentioned, you could take out equity and decide to buy cash up north and buy multiple units, and then spend the rest of your life doing charity work. So I guess that it's nice to know that these options exist. I see, Benga, there's a question from Mfon. I'm hoping also that as many of us will take advantage of the knowledge Benga is presenting. Mfon wants to know, please, she wants to know who your agents are. I imagine, yes.
Sorry, I actually don't have agents. I just help funding. That's all I do. I have people I work with, but they have that I can introduce you to, but they're not directly with me. If I have clients that wants to buy, I introduce them and they deal with it themselves. I just help them to raise money to do the purchase.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't know, are there any other questions? We've 13 minutes past 5. There's so much to learn. Benga, there's something you haven't. Okay, I have a question here offline.
Okay.
It says, are you taking apprentices to understudy you and work with you? Yeah, that's one. And then if you could speak more about this step ladder, because I believe that we can achieve so much more if we come together. So please address the question as, are you open to having apprentices? And
I
then if you
do
could
have
speak more.
trainee brokers,
Sorry?
but I have trainee brokers,
Okay.
but they're self-employed. They do the test. They take the exams. When they're qualified, I give them a trainee position.
Okay,
So
so they have to be qualified to come
yes,
on
everyone
board.
has to be, yeah, because FCA, before anyone joins, they have to be qualified and they have to be vetted via the FCA process before they
What
can join.
qualification is that?
CIMAP, there's
Okay.
a chartered, what's it called? Chartered
Mortgage.
mortgage, yeah,
Okay.
practice, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So can you speak more about the step ladder? How does it
Step
work?
ladder, basically, I actually found them via a friend that when he was struggling to save money. So when he joined them, so they grouped them together. Basically, is what we do in Africa, in our own community, whereby every month someone will take the pot. This is just that they contribute. But what they have done is they've made it that they're regulated by FCA.
Interesting.
So they've been licensed to operate in that sort of market. They will, so every month you just put your monthly and they will assign a time for the person to take their own pool of savings. So that's basically what they do. And it's typical what we do in our community. It's just that because ours is not regulated, we can't present the deposit. They will ask questions. So they've regulated it. That's why people are able to. They charge commission as well, but the paper trail, the evidence can be presented to the bank that this is how I saved my deposit. And banks are okay
With that.
with that.
Okay, so so does it mean, so like there are 23 of us on this call? If we were to approach Stepladder, would it mean Stella and her other 22 friends approaching them to say we want to save, say, £500 a month? Or can Stella on her own approach Stepladder and then there are other people that I'll be grouped
Yes,
with?
yeah, they will group you with different people. It's not, but the money comes to them.
Okay.
So they've already arranged that, okay, is it going to be 10 people doing 1,000? Is it 20 people doing 500? Basically, they will do all of those things. Then every month they've arranged so everyone knows when their turn will be to take the money.
Interesting.
So every month they just pull the money in there and they are the one that distributes to individual. The money comes to them. So the people don't necessarily need to know each other.
Interesting.
So it's just that they will do the collection and distribution. If it's a buy to let, this is something that you can do on your own. Especially if for limited company, banks will allow up to 4 people to buy together.
Yeah.
For residential also, they will allow up to 4 people to buy together, and they don't need to be related to buy. So people that have they're single or they don't have, their family is not large, that they can easily buy a big house that everyone will take different floors, those things that you buy maybe a 4 or 5 bed house, for example, and everyone is assigned to, okay, this is your space, that's my space. Lenders will allow that up to 4 people to do that. For buy-to-let investment, they will still allow up to 4 people, but some lenders will take unlimited investors at the background. That, let's say, like you said, everyone on this platform can pool money together. Then 4 out of the group will be the face of the business. Everyone else will have shares in the company. So that money can be used as a buy-to-let investment. So it's only the 4 people that the bank will deal with, that they will look at their profile, do the credit checks on. Everyone else, they're just investors in the company. So that is possible. You mentioned earlier the Asians. What they do is they save money together, like the pool. So they buy cash or they buy it with mortgage. The first person will get the mortgage. They will save, the person will. So that's how they do it. They work together.
No, please say that again.
They all save the money in one pot.
Okay.
So the moment they get enough to get a mortgage or to buy cash, they will buy in the first person's name. Then they continue to save until everyone's got a property. That's how they do it. They hardly go outside to borrow money.
My people, do you hear that?
Okay. They hardly go outside to borrow. Everything is within. And some of them, their parents will actually join them to buy the house. So the first one that owns the property, when they have deposit, that person will join the next buyer to buy the next property. So they will just keep doing joint purchase until everyone's got their own property. So it's always a teamwork. So
yeah.
So
I don't think it's just the Asian model. I think it's an African model as well.
Africans, we save money together, but we don't buy together.
Oh, we don't buy together?
We don't buy together.
Oh, don't we?
No.
Oh, really?
No.
That's why we are asking the questions. How are the Asians doing it, and we are sitting here on top of debt capital?
True.
I think it's all about trust.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah, we find it difficult to trust each other. That's what I've actually tried to bring people together a few times. That some will show commitment, the others wouldn't. So everyone will be at the meeting, they will talk, we can do it. When it's now time to put the money down, they will just start talking. And so I don't know what the problem is, but we is a problem. But that's part of why Africans are lacking behind in terms of the lenders are actually creating products for communities based on what they see them doing.
Yes.
The lenders that have product that fits into the Asian model. The lenders that have product that fits into the Islamic model. Like, okay, they work together. Let's create a product that will we can use that is specific to them. We actually don't have any for ourselves because they don't know how we operate. They don't understand us. So we have access to what everyone else
So I guess what we could do, we can start with what exists, because it's in dealing with a customer that you get to know their peculiar habits, and of course those products will be created. I see James, no, who was it? Somebody asked, Toyin was asking how she could be, Tosin James was asking how she could be your customer. Actually, there are slides that Benga has, and at the end of which is his contact details. We'll share that